Hello everyone and welcome to TBONUS. No TFE this week, but I wanted to kind of do something that's been running through my head since the Xbox Activision lawsuit against the FTC has come and gone. I just wanted to kind of run my thoughts over what I think Xbox's 10-year plan is. Because the reason why I say 10-year plan is because they've essentially licensed out Call of Duty to all of these other companies, PlayStation, Nvidia, Nintendo, and everything for 10 years. And I want to just have this as like, if any of this stuff happens, I kind of just want to have it as a called it moment. I don't know why. I just want to have just to see if my brain is on the same wavelength as what Microsoft is trying to do. And so I just wanted to, I'll kind of explain some of the reasoning behind why I think some of the stuff that I'm saying. And yeah, so hopefully this is fun. So first off the bat, I want to just say I reckon over 60% of the Activision single-player games become Xbox exclusive. I say 60 because I feel like that is on the border of them not making everything exclusive so that they can kind of go, hey, look, we own this, but we're still giving single-player games out to other platforms and we're not just hoarding everything. That's my logic on that. Because they could just go 100%, which I think they're going to do with Bethesda games. I think every single Bethesda game that is single-player will be Xbox exclusive, no matter what Microsoft says or Xbox says. I know they say case-by-case basis, but they have no reason for a single-player game. Single-player games are what pushes console sales. Multiplayer are what keep people there, and multiplayer, you want people on the game. So, like single-player, they don't need to. So I reckon at least 60%, if not over 60%, will become Xbox exclusive. Now this is a big one because this is my next big guess. I reckon Microsoft will make Call of Duty release every 2 years instead of 1. Now it's a bit of a stretch, I will give you that. The reason why I say this is because in all of the public documentation that we've seen, it doesn't specify how many games Microsoft will release. It just says a 10-year deal. Now, the assumption is Call of Duty is yearly release. Every year Call of Duty has come out. That's been the case since the early 2000s. Now, the reason I say they'll drop it to every 2 years is because, one, they'll want to claim that they're doing it to increase the quality. And that's probably a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think Call of Duty shouldn't be every year. It's too expensive of a game. It's like 70 quid every year. And for the people who play that one game, as we found in the court documents, a certain subset of people do only play Call of Duty. So I reckon they will switch it to a 2-year release cycle so that, one, they can polish the games a bit better, and two, so that they don't have to do as many games on those other platforms. Because I don't... This is a guess because I don't know what the legal documentation that all the other companies have received. All we have seen is the public-facing thing that they have committed Call of Duty to these companies for 10 years. But they have never stated how many games in that 10-year cycle. Because they've never stated, we're giving 10 Call of Duties for 10 years. It's just stated, we're giving Call of Duty for 10 years. So I reckon Microsoft will delay a game and then release every 2 years. So they only have to release 5 games in those 10 years. It's a big guess. It might not happen. It might happen later on down the line. It might not happen straight away. They might release 1 or 2 games. These are the games that are already in development. This is just a big swing for the fence, but it also seems logical for Microsoft to kind of skirt around the legal mumbo-jumbo. Plus, also go, hey, look, we're making Call of Duty. Everyone's complained that Call of Duty shouldn't be yearly for ages, and the games are broken and they need more polish. So this will be Microsoft's hey, we've done a good thing. We've delayed Call of Duty for a year. This one's the sneaky one that I think a lot of people miss from the discussion of why majority Sony is worried about Xbox owning Call of Duty. I reckon Microsoft and Xbox will circumvent the online purchases on the host stores. So this is going back to the Apple versus Epic lawsuit, where Epic circumvented Apple's and Google's online stores to offer cheaper alternatives to V-Bucks and stuff like that, and Apple sued them, and it was a whole legal thing, and Epic lost, but ultimately it was decided, it was kind of up in the air whether or not there should be an alternative to having online, like these big storefronts having this much control over the purchasing, and there should be an alternative. I don't remember off the top of my head whether or not anything's come of that or if stuff is in the background. But the thing that people missed was that Microsoft was heavily on the side of Epic in that battle. Microsoft came out and defended Epic and stated that they would also like to have a third party, or be allowed to have third party like navigation, so that people don't have to always purchase through the App Store. And Microsoft is currently working on a third party like storefront, so that you can purchase all your stuff on mobile, which, again, this is why I'm saying I reckon Microsoft is heavily trying to cut past that 30% revenue split. And the reason why this hurts Sony is because in the court documents it was revealed that Sony made about $800 million from Call of Duty in 1 year. That's just, I think, last year. Previous years we don't know, but at least for 1 year Sony made $800 million. That is 30% of all purchases, like, on the PlayStation. So it made Call of Duty alone on PlayStation made about $2 billion nearly, and that was 30% of that. So Sony made about $800 million just from 30% of all the sales that came through the PlayStation Store. So if Microsoft made a web browser extension whenever you try and purchase stuff on any platform, like Nintendo, Nvidia, all of these platforms that they're trying to get it on, when they bring it to mobile, that's another one I'm going to speak about later, they will just have a way to circumnavigate those purchases. So Sony could lose up to $800 million if Microsoft decides to do this, and people do use it, because it's just if it opens and it goes to a browser and it's the thing that happens and that's just how it is, people will just do it. They might still purchase stuff through the PlayStation Store, but if there's a way to circumnavigate it, I'm sure Microsoft is looking into it. So yeah, or my alternative to that is Microsoft pushes heavily when the courts, if they are working on it, decide to force lower percentage cuts for hosting on online stores. Microsoft will push for that side. So Sony takes like 15% or 20% revenue split rather than the 30% split that they currently have. What else do I want to speak? Let's go on to... So yeah, when there was a lot of talk about why Microsoft is buying it, and one of the reasons was Microsoft wants King, which is owned by Activision Blizzard, because it's Activision Blizzard King, and so they want to bring a lot of stuff to mobile. So again, I reckon the Microsoft games will feature a lot of microtransactions, but will also circumnavigate the App Store's policies, or try and reduce how much the App Stores take. This is again highly theoretical. There's no evidence for it, but this is just business, and businesses want to make money. And if they can stop other businesses getting the money, then of course they're going to do it. Also, mobile games, heavily microtransactioned anyway. It's a given. I just feel like these will be like big games. Like Call of Duty will come to mobile at some stage. It's already on mobile, but they'll try and bring like a better version, like with the cloud streaming and stuff like that, to make it run better and have higher graphical fidelity. But that will have, again, a circumventing web open up browser, which circumvents. And then I reckon Microsoft will either take the lawsuit against like these app stores to try and get the law changed, or try and get the law changed in its favor before they have to do this. I'm not saying this is roughly in the 10 years before they have to renegotiate contracts, because they want to try and get all of this. This might even happen after the 10 years. I'm just basing this on a 10-year plan, because Microsoft has basically put a deadline on when they need to renegotiate Call of Duty contracts. And also, the reason why I said 60% of Activision single-player games will become exclusive is the PlayStation deal. I think Phil Spencer did say that they offered one to PlayStation, but I don't think PlayStation signed that deal. They only signed for Call of Duty, which I don't know if was an option or they just said that they offered single player. They might. I don't know. Sony hasn't said anything. Sony, it seems odd not to sign for single player, but again, they were heavily at a disadvantage because they either don't have Call of Duty or they do have Call of Duty. So, what else have I got on here? So, in regards to Xbox Game Pass, I reckon after the deal goes through, Call of Duty won't come out immediately on Game Pass. I think it's been stated in court document, like it was rumored that if it does happen, it will be 2025. So I reckon it will come out 2025 on like the first Call of Duty game will come onto Game Pass for like in 2025. It might push forward. Who knows? It just depends on how long it takes for this to go through, finalize contracts, how much Microsoft wants to look like it's not doing what it said it wouldn't do. Because once they have it, they don't have to, like, they can say all of this stuff. They have no legal reason not to do it because they didn't lose. They can do what they own the stuff. They can do what they want with it. Like, it's the fault of the people who believe that they would keep their word, basically, in the courts if they don't. So I don't think there's legal ramifications. I'm not an expert. I'm sure there would be, but Microsoft is a $1 trillion company. I'm sure they are happy to pay the fines. But yeah, I reckon it will stay on. It will come out in like 2025. The Game Pass price, at whatever stage of whatever price range it is at the time that Call of Duty comes out on Game Pass, it will stay that for about a year and then increase by about £5 just to cover the expenditures, because they'll basically use that first year or maybe 2 years to grab as many people as they can to trial it and get a year's out of it, and then get hooked on Call of Duty, other games, this service, and then they'll increase the price because, like Netflix, once you're in, and if someone pays for it, they can lose someone not paying for it. So, yeah. I'm also going to just say, I think Microsoft will make all of its money from this purchase back in the 10 years, because Activision Blizzard King has roughly raked in about, for the last couple years, just over $6 billion every year in revenue, just from looking over previous charts. And Call of Duty always sells roughly over 20 million copies, so that alone is a big revenue thing. If they do push the mobile market, if they do push Xbox on Game Pass, all of this stuff, I reckon they will make their money back in that 10 years. Because it's 69, roughly 69. It's like 68.5 billion or something. So it's roughly $69 billion. And if you work it out as roughly $6 billion a year in that 10, or $7 billion a year, like that's what Activision's been making roughly every year for the last 10 years. So if they pump those numbers up, then yeah, they'll make their money back in those 10 years. And then they don't need to. Again, this is my big one. I reckon after the 10 years, they will not remove Call of Duty, but they will renegotiate, and the deal will be much worse for these other companies, because Microsoft will be in a much better position to negotiate. But yeah, is there anything else? There was a couple things that I think I haven't put on this list that I might make a new video, or new pod episode about. I just wanted to kind of throw some ideas around, just because this deal is fascinating to me. I don't like it, but I understand the business reasoning behind it. I know the FTC messed up a lot of their arguments. They shouldn't have been focusing on Call of Duty exclusivity. They should have been focusing on the stuff like the cloud side, the fact, like I said, the biggest one to me is that I think Microsoft will try and circumnavigate all of its competitors' app stores by having a browser purchase thing, because they need Call of Duty on other platforms, but they don't need other platforms profiteering off of the game. So, you look at it from that situation. Like, you can push Call of Duty onto Nintendo, but you don't need Nintendo's App Store to make purchases if you have your own App Store. Not App Store, but like web browser purchase thing that gives you Call of Duty coins for cheaper than if you purchase them on the Nintendo or PlayStation Store. That's the big one. That's the one that I think will happen, and it will piss off a lot of companies. I don't know if it will happen immediately. I don't know when it will happen, but I know it will happen. I don't think it will happen within the first 2 or 3 Call of Duties. I reckon it will subtly make its way in at some point once the dust has settled from this. I'm just expecting like either the law changes where these companies get a lower revenue cut from hosting. So like Apple, Google, PlayStation, Xbox, even Xbox itself. But that doesn't affect Xbox because they own Call of Duty. So they don't lose a revenue cut if they own the game. So yeah, like it would have affected Microsoft if Activision wasn't owned by them. But again, that's one of the reasons I think they bought it, was because they saw the writing on the wall for these high-priced, like 70-30 splits on these stores. And I think the law will change to favor publishers, like the people actually making the games. But that also then favors these big companies who own these games, and Microsoft can then severely hinder its competitors by offering and looking like it's offering the good stuff. Like I know I'm being very negative on this deal. I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff to come out of it. It will, if it does go on Xbox Game Pass, it will allow people to enjoy the game for free, like for a cheaper price. Obviously, I just don't think you need Microsoft to own Activision for that to happen. Also, I see it through a business lens. I always see it through like how this company's mind works. It might not be, but I always look at it through what is the way that they are going to get money from this, not how are they going to benefit their customers. Because they can work hand in hand, but a lot of the time it is mostly fuck your customers over to get money. But there are ways to do it without fucking over your customers. There are ways to do it by fucking over your customers. The one that fucks over your customers is the one that will get you more money. The one that doesn't fuck over your customers keeps your customers somewhat happy. So I'm just looking at it through the lens of what I've seen happen in the gaming landscape. What sort of position will be in 10 years. And just sort of those things. Oh, also I want to point out one more thing. Elder Scrolls 6 will be Xbox exclusive. Like, I know they hesitated around saying that it would be, but it's a single-player game, and it, just like Starfield, it will be exclusive. They have no reason to put it on other platforms. It is a huge game that will sell consoles or give Microsoft money, and they don't necessarily have to care because they've already taken that brunt with Starfield, and so long as they put it on PC, people won't be happy that it's on Xbox, and it's you have to purchase it through the Xbox thing, but they can also put it on Steam, and if Steam is forced to, again, lower its revenue split, Microsoft will make more money. So they might lose a little bit, but ultimately they benefit by having it on a bigger platform, but they own it, so they'll take in more revenue. That's my thing. I don't really have much for the cloud gaming side. I figure it will become a thing in the 10 years, but it won't be. It will be heavily pushed by Call of Duty because that will be their showcase. It will mostly be focused on mobile cloud gaming and the Nintendo Switch to try and showcase what they can do with limited tech. So not dedicated hardware, but like for high performance, basically. So they will be focused on like mobile phones, and it will be used for that. It won't be used more for the Xbox side of things. It will be used for PC and mobile. And they will probably have it cheap for a bit and then increase the price once they have a certain number of players. That if people do leave, then the cost will circumvent that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I might do another another episode in a few, maybe once every couple years on this sort of stuff, or maybe not like another style video like this where I kind of spitball what I think a company's business plan is. I might do one for the like Hollywood, like AI and like the writers and the strikes and all of this stuff. I might do another sort of style video on it. I keep saying video. I know this is going to become a video because it's going to get uploaded to YouTube at the same time, but it's mostly a podcast. You're meant to listen to it. But yeah, I feel like I am missing a major... Because the thing is, the reason why I wanted to do this is because this has been running around in my brain for like the last couple days, and it's been making it really hard for me to sleep because my brain just keeps throwing new scenarios into the mix. And so I quickly wrote down most of the points that I feel like my brain has been trying to spitball and churn through. And I know I've probably forgotten one of the big ones that my brain was like, no, this is really important. You need to do this. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I shall talk to you next time. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is a bit different. Have a good night. Have a good day. See you next time.